Why do we call it Karkadè? Such a curious word, almost mysterious. And when you hear it, the name immediately sounds Arabic. But is that really the case? Where does this name come from? And above all, what story lies behind a plant that today we mainly know for its deep red infusion? To discover the answer, we have to travel much farther than we might imagine. We have to start in Africa, follow the course of the Nile, reach Egypt and Nubia, and then continue the journey through trade, migration, and cultures that gave the same plant completely different names. Karkadè is not just a drink. Karkadè is a plant with a story made of names, journeys, and memory. The scientific name is Hibiscus saptorifer, and the plant belongs to the mallow family. When we hear the word hibiscus, we probably imagine the large ornamental flowers we see in tropical gardens. The hibiscus used for Karkadè, however, is something different. The flowers are relatively delicate, and after flowering, they develop a fleshy, colorful structure at the base of the flower called the calyx. That calyx turns a deep red and is the part that is mainly harvested and used. Once dried, the calyces can be used to prepare a ruby red infusion with a distinctive tart flavor. That same calyx has accompanied the plant on its long journey across the world. But where did that journey begin? Here, the story becomes interesting. We cannot simply point to one country and say, Karkadè comes from here. The origin of Hibiscus saptorifer is still debated. The plant is deeply connected to tropical Africa, and some scientific theories identify Western Sudan as a possible very ancient area of domestication. Some reconstructions even suggest that domestication may go back thousands of years, long before the civilizations we associate today with the history of Egypt. And this brings us exactly where I wanted to go. When we talk about a plant with such an ancient history, the next question is inevitable. What does archaeology tell us? Imagine the landscape of the Nile thousands of years ago. To the north, Egypt. Farther south, Nubia and the regions that today include parts of Sudan. The Nile was one of the great communication routes of the ancient world. Along this river, people, animals, grains, textiles, spices, and plants traveled. And this is where we need to make an important distinction. Karkadè is often presented as a drink from ancient Egypt, sometimes even associated with the pharaohs. But can we really prove that? As far as the available archaeological evidence is concerned, not with the certainty with which this story is often told. We do not have an archaeological find that we can point to and say, these are the calyces of Hibiscus saptorifer used by the ancient Egyptians to prepare Karkadè. No sufficiently strong evidence allows us to say that Karkadè was definitely a drink of the pharaohs. And this is exactly where, in my opinion, archaeology becomes even more fascinating. Archaeology does not only tell us what we have found. Sometimes archaeology also tells us what we cannot yet prove. What we do know is that the history of the plant is deeply African, and that the region of Sudan and the Nile Valley is fundamental to understanding its ancient journey. So instead of turning a legend into a historical fact, we can leave one question open. When exactly did this plant become part of Egyptian culture? Perhaps that is precisely the part of the story that still remains to be reconstructed. If we cannot say with certainty that the pharaohs drank Karkadè, why is this drink so strongly associated with Egypt today? The answer lies in more recent history. Karkadè has become deeply rooted in modern Egyptian culture, particularly in Upper Egypt. The calyces are used to prepare an infusion that can be enjoyed either hot or cold. The deep red color has also made it instantly recognizable. But above all, Karkadè became part of everyday life. The drink became something served in homes, markets, and social gatherings. And that is how an African plant eventually became, in the modern imagination, one of the drinks most strongly associated with Egypt. But all of this brings us back to the question we started with. Why Karkadè? In Italian, we find the forms Karkadè and Karkade. And here comes the surprise. The term is generally connected with the form Karkada, which is widespread throughout the Arab world. The story, however, is not as simple as saying. Karkadè is an Arabic word. Treccani actually records the Italian term as a word of Eritrean origin. So we may be looking at an African word that traveled through different languages and cultures, taking different forms along the way. And this is one of the things I love most about studying the etymology of plants. A word is not just a word. A word can be a trace of a journey. A word can tell us that a plant passed from one population to another, from one market to another, from one language to another. And Karkadè is a perfect example. If we continue the journey, we discover that Karkadè is far from its only name. In parts of West Africa, the plant is known as bisap. In Nigeria, the plant is also known as zobo. In Ghana, we find the name sabalo. And after crossing the Atlantic, we encounter sorrel in the Caribbean. In Mexico and other parts of Latin America, the drink is known as agua de Jamaica. Completely different names. But the plant is the same. Hibiscus sabdarifa. And this is where botany meets history. When a plant changes its name as it moves from one culture to another, it often means that the plant was not simply observed. The plant was cultivated, used, traded, and passed down through generations. And here we come to one of the most important historical episodes in the story of Karkadè. The plant also reached the Americas and the Caribbean through the movement of African populations during the period of the transatlantic slave trade. People did not travel with objects and memories alone. Seeds, plants, flavors, and knowledge traveled with them too. Some of these plants managed to take root in their new lands. Karkadè, known in some of these regions as sorrel, became part of Caribbean food traditions. Think about the power of this image. A person forced to leave their homeland crosses the ocean. They cannot take their home with them. They cannot take their landscape with them. But somehow, they can carry a part of their memory. And a plant can become that memory. This is one of the aspects I find most moving in botanical history. Plants travel with human beings. And sometimes they tell their story better than documents do. Naturally, over time, Hibiscus sabdarifa was used for much more than preparing a drink. The calyces are used in different culinary traditions. They can be used in sweet preparations, jellies, jams, and drinks. In some cultures, other parts of the plant are also eaten. And then there is the whole history of traditional medicine. For centuries, hibiscus has been used in different cultures for a wide variety of purposes. Today, the plant is also the subject of scientific research. But here, it is important to distinguish tradition from scientific evidence. One thing is to say, this plant has traditionally been used for this purpose. Another is to say, science has proven that it works. Those are two very different statements. And telling the history of plants also means respecting that difference. In the end, perhaps the true protagonist of this story is not even Karkadè. The true protagonist is the journey. An African plant. A name with a complex linguistic history. Sudan. The Nile Valley. Modern Egypt. Nubia. Trade routes. The Atlantic. The Caribbean. Mexico. And finally, the entire world. And all of this began with a small red structure that remains after an hibiscus flower has bloomed. Isn't that extraordinary? And I would like to leave you with a sentence that, in my opinion, perfectly captures the way we can look at plants. Plants are the silent witnesses of human history. Because we change languages, we change borders, we change habits. But plants continue to travel with us. And sometimes, all we have to do is follow their journey to rediscover pieces of our own history. So the next time you see a cup of Karkadè, remember the question we started with. Why Karkadè? Because behind that apparently exotic name, there is more than just a word. There is an African story. There is a journey through languages and cultures. There is modern Egypt. There are trade routes and migrations. And there are still questions that archaeology has not yet answered definitively. And that is exactly what makes plants so fascinating. They are not just plants. They are traces. They are memory. They are history. If you enjoy plants, history, archaeology, and the hidden stories behind words, subscribe to the channel and join me on the next journey. And most importantly, tell me in the comments, which plant should we investigate next? Because next time, we might take a plant you have seen 1,000 times and discover that you actually know very little about its story.